Yesterday on the show, we were talking to jazz trombonist Reggie Watkins about what makes Pittsburgh such a great jazz city.
Yeah, and to mark Black History Month, Boaz is looking back at the history of the music genre here in our city. And as he found out, there's one place that pops up again and again when you talk about jazz in the Steel City.
We're here at the Heinz History Center in front of a recreation of the Crawford Grill. I'm here with Dwayne Dolphin, acclaimed bassist, jazz bassist, and I know the Crawford Grill is a pretty significant place, not only to you personally, but also to Pittsburgh jazz history. So why is that?
A couple reasons. One, it had all the best jazz musicians in the world come there to play. Like I said, John Coltrane, Miles Davis, the best of the best.
Wow.
And then for me, personally, it was a training camp, a place for young musicians to go and learn from the greats, the local greats.
Yeah, well, let's go inside. Over here on this wall, we have the famous photo, Great Day in Pittsburgh. And I mean, you're in this photo, first of all. Can you point yourself out over there?
Right there.
Yeah, right in the middle. And so I imagine some of these folks might have been some of the people who mentored you as well.
Oh man, you'll make me cry.
Yeah.
Well, one person is Roger Humphreys, and he's a big mentor. Pete Henderson, big mentor. John Squirrel Mosley, big mentor. And Spencer Bay. These guys helped me be what I am today.
So when did you first pick up a bass?
When I was 10.
Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of happened because my older brother played guitar, and he heard me playing his guitar, and he said, "Hey man, you like that thing?" I said, "Man, this thing hurt my ears, it's too high."
Yeah.
And then he bought me a bass for $10, and it's been a love affair ever since.
I mean, you must have sort of had a knack for it, because within a couple of years, I mean, you were playing professionally.
True. I was just having fun.
Yeah.
Especially with great musicians in my neighborhood. That's one thing about being from the Hill District. It had a whole lot of musicians who were just young people playing. We didn't have PlayStation, so we had musical instruments. And that's what we did, so that was that.
Right. I mean, obviously you practiced a lot because right out of high school, Wynton Marsalis poached you and was like, "Okay, you're part of our band now."
I mean, it shocked even me. Because you wish for those things, but you don't know if any of those things are going to even possible.
Right.
And I just happened to be in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Well, and in this room, we see a lot of the Pittsburgh greats. We see Mary Lou Williams over here, a wax figure of her at the piano. And so who are some of those Pittsburgh, jazz musicians from the past who inspired you?
Well, this one on this thing is Art Blakey playing, of course, I mean, this music, the Jazz Messengers. Not only did he inspire people like me, it inspired everybody, because a lot of the leaders that became the leaders of jazz come from that group.
Wow. And what do you think it was about Pittsburgh that it became sort of this magical place for jazz musicians?
I wish I had the magic answer for the magic formula, but I really don't, man. I just think it's just regular old people, hard-working people who, I think the environment kind of helped the musicians become what they were, because like I'm saying, you have people who working hard, spending money, and whatever they spent their money on, they wanted it to be good.
Yeah.
So musicians were challenged to perform at a high level if they wanted support.
Right.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
I think that's part of it.
Right. Well, are there any other faces you want to point out over here of people you've worked with? You sort of know everyone in this room, really.
Well, I mean, this guy's band. This is Roger Humphreys, who I just talked about. We worked together last night, in fact.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I mean, amazing drummer.
And that's the great Stanley Turntine, who I spent some time in his band.
And you're paying it forward, because now you mentor a lot of, sort of aspiring jazz musicians too.
Sure, because that's where it's got to be.
Yeah.
And that's the responsibility of all of us who had an opportunity to go beyond the walls of Pittsburgh. If you're fortunate enough that happens to you in your life, then you have to preserve this music by teaching kids how it's done.
Yeah.
And I'm really all about that, because it's necessary, because if not, we all fade away.
Yeah. Gosh, well, Dwayne, thanks so much for sharing your story and the history of jazz in Pittsburgh. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're welcome. Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
It's so wonderful that he has ties to the Crawford Grill because it was such a hot spot for jazz back in the day here. And I know that they had some attempts to bring it back, but it just hasn't worked out so well. But it would be great to see it come back.
Yeah, and just Pittsburgh in general, I'm so amazed at all of the jazz talent. And even I was telling you earlier that I took a class at Pitt for a history of jazz. I mean, it really is ingrained in this city, and how special that we have that exhibit right there.
Yeah, it sure is. And speaking of venues, we have some really great ones for jazz music here in Pittsburgh. The Greer Cabaret Theater, Con Alma, MCG Jazz, and we encourage you to check them out to see some talented musicians do what they do, really. It's dazzle us all through music.
That is right. Well, still to come on Talk Pittsburgh. As you know, you've heard this before, we are Penn State. And if you are or were a Nittany Lion, you probably know about the Blue-White Ball. It's run by alums of the school, and it's a fun night for a good cause. Find out how you can join in on the action after the break.